Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and you're listening and or watching the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, folks, to another week of our show. We have a pretty packed show this week, so let's go ahead and jump in with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. Finally, the Apple event has a date, and that date is 4/20, which is next Tuesday, and a holiday for some. And this event is called Spring Loaded. As typical Apple fashion, they made us aware, exactly 1 week before the announcement. It's because we are still in a pandemic. It still will be fully remote, similar to the last three. Can you believe the last three Apple events have all been remote and pre-produced? And it will start 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That'll be 1 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. And we don't know exactly what is going to come of the event or what's going to be included. Again, they give us a Easter egg for the announcement, meaning you can do some VR to see the animation of the logo for this event. I can't quite pull anything from the way the Apple logo looks. Any thoughts from you on what the new logo for this event could mean?
My guess would be something with the iPads and maybe like the case or the keyboard have something to do with maybe not springs, but a new way to open and close, like a smart magic keyboard, whatever they're calling it nowadays. Maybe I couldn't find anything either, and not more importantly, but specifically, I did some research a little bit, and I couldn't figure out if any of these other tech sites had any sort of guesses as to what the spring loaded meant either. So I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of curious.
Yeah, I didn't see any of that either. I didn't see anybody really trying to determine. The logo is very colorful. So
And it springs and it's
it's kind of
bouncy.
bouncy. Yep. And it's rumored that we will get new iPad Pros, possibly AirPod Pros, possibly new Apple TV, possibly iMacs, possibly AirTags. It's all speculative at this point because nobody knows. But I think for certain we can say for pretty much certain that iPad Pro is likely coming.
And probably AirPods, I would guess.
Yeah. I saw some kind of mock-ups of the new iMac, and it was kind of similar to the color scheme of the recently released iPad Airs. So we'll see if that's a thing. I don't know. It's usually can kind of glean something, or the insiders, usually have some kind of idea as to what to expect. But it's been pretty quiet on this front, which is unusual.
Yep.
So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see what comes of it, because I really don't have too much to say because I have no idea. Spring loaded. Springtime. Of course, they always do a play on words.
Maybe.
Could be different colors for the iPad Pro. I don't know. Could be maybe a new Apple Pencil, because all the lines are like really squiggly. So, what did I say? Did I say Apple Pencil?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I don't know. It should be interesting because I have no idea.
That's good. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I
You
guess
need to be
build up a little
surprised by
excitement.
change.
Yeah, because usually, in previous releases, previous events, we have kind of an idea and, things trolling out there, but nothing this go round, which is strangely as well. All right. The next thing, as the latest Apple event has been announced, of course, the rumor mill really kicks into high gear. And the latest rumor that I have seen regarding the iPhone 13, and surprisingly enough, when I was researching for the show, there are now rumors about coming out about iPhone 14 and iPhone 15 already. And we don't have, the 13 out yet. But one of the biggest things that they're saying, of course, rumored as well, is that for the iPhone 13, the notch on the front of the iPhone apparently is shrinking. It's not completely going away, but it seems to be, based on the parts that have been leaked, is that the notch is significantly smaller, or noticeably smaller, than on the previous devices. And I think that's something that Apple users have been wanting for a while now. So I don't know. So far, that's pretty much the biggest thing that has come out about the iPhone 13, and possibly the mini is going away, even though it was just kind of recently reintroduced. So I don't know. It's just a strange space to be in the rumor mill for Apple devices.
Yeah. I guess this is something that Apple fans have been dying for. I don't know why. I don't know why, because I don't have a problem with the notch as it stands. But again, like you mentioned, the only thing we can get from these samples in this story is that the notch will be a little bit slimmer. It won't be any wider or thinner, but from left to right, it'll be a little bit thinner because they have moved the speaker to the top of the iPhone, like the current iPads, well, specifically the iPad Pros. They've moved the speaker to the top. So instead of the notch housing the front-facing camera, housing the speaker, and housing the Face ID camera, they're going to move the speaker to the top of the phone, so it'll actually come out of the top here. So that'll give them less real estate to have to build into the notch, so the notch actually gets slimmer. Again, who cares?
I don't really see it as a big, and looking at the mock-up, you can tell it's vertically, horizontally is shrinking. Right. But you may get some more pixels of space, but I don't think enough to make a huge difference. And like you mentioned, I didn't know that people are clamoring for this. Right. But apparently they are, I guess. Strange. I don't know. Weird stuff. All right, on to the next thing in the lowdown. We've been talking a lot about COVID, and with the Apple Watch 6, there was a new pulse ox feature added, and it appears as if they are trying to use this new pulse ox feature in the Apple Watch to try and predict respiratory type illnesses similar to COVID-19. So in this particular article that we're reading from Cult of Mac, there's a study being held in Seattle from the University of Washington, where they are going to start loaning out Apple Watches for 6 months to try and see if they can nail down how to use this new pulse ox feature to see if it can predict or determine if someone has some sort of respiratory type illness. They are currently in the recruiting phase to get participants who live. You have to be in the greater Seattle area, and the folks that they are targeting are people who are in the higher risk respiratory illnesses I'm assuming like, asthma, those type of pre-existing illnesses to use as participants in this study. The criteria, of course, is having a higher than normal risk of a respiratory illness, have an iPhone 6 or 6S or above, over 22, and are willing to commit to 6 months of participation. So I think it's just another step in, these smartwatches being used for more than just, activity type of tracking for
Right.
exercises.
And I mean, it could definitely go towards people because we hear them all the time. There are young folks who think they are invulnerable and they think they're bulletproof, so they don't think anything can happen to them. And when people surprisingly still don't understand what asymptomatic means, all they'll say is, well, I feel fine. Well, the test says you have COVID.
Right.
So if the test says you have COVID, but you feel fine, yeah, you feel fine, but you're still passing it on to other people unknowingly because you feel fine. So I could see the Apple Watch working for somebody who is A, thinks they're bulletproof, or B, just, well, nothing's happened to me directly, so there's nothing wrong with me. Well, indirectly, this Apple Watch, if this works, and let's just say hypothetically, they actually do announce in a future Apple event that the Apple Watch 7 will help predict COVID-19. Now you have this other tool that can say, hey, stupid, you still have, something's wrong with you. Go get tested or go get checked out, when normally you'd be like, well, I feel perfectly fine, right? So it's just more help for people, who are willing or who aren't willing to take their health seriously.
Right. And it's just, it's the basis of what a virus is, not just a respiratory virus, but any virus that you get. You can have it, not have symptoms, and pass it around to people. Hello, HIV.
Right.
It is a virus. You can have it and not know it and feel fine, but you can still pass it along to folks. And we're not bulletproof. No one is. Everyone is. I think if anything has shown from the COVID-19 pandemic is that race, class, gender, anybody can get it. And anybody can have a bad reaction to it, and anyone can pass away from it. And on the positive side, anybody can recover from it. It's just one of those things where that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of a virus. And that's the nature of the society. It's not anything you can predict. It's not a specific lifestyle, so to speak. People have gotten COVID, or who are social distancing, who are wiping down things, who are wearing their masks. It's just the nature of the beast. So if there's something that can help in the future from something like this happening, or at least be able to catch it earlier before it becomes a full-blown pandemic, as we're seeing with this, then, more power to it. Welcome it. All right. The final thing I wanted to talk about this week. It's an interesting concept, and I didn't realize that so many people were the specific type of people are care about this. So there is a proposed bill that is in the Senate from Senator Josh Hawley, who many may remember from January 6th, who was a staunch supporter of the insurrection on the Capitol. He has
is this the fifth guy?
That's fifth guy. This is the fifth guy. He has, and one thing I debated on whether I wanted to bring this up or not, but when I saw the name of the bill, I was like, we got to talk about this. Right. So he introduced a bill on Monday that would ban mergers and acquisitions of companies, primarily geared towards tech companies, because, they have this battle going on with big tech for whatever reason they've come up with this week. But it caps the amount that a company can spend to acquire another company. And they have set that number at 100 billion. Where they get this number from, I don't know. They just make it up. Who knows? But in any event, if this bill is passed, it could have the biggest, like I said, impact on tech companies, including companies like Apple, because they're saying, based on this article from Culture Mac, the market cap that Apple has for acquiring other companies is 2.2 trillion with a T. And this also will affect, other huge tech companies. You think of your Microsoft, your Amazons, your Facebooks, your Ubers, Netflix, all these type of companies, because they will acquire smaller companies to fold that tech into their existing tech. So they don't have to go and reinvent the wheel when somebody already has it and they have plenty of money. But in this instance, he wants to stop that. And the name of the bill is Trust Busting for the 21st Century Act. Trust busting.
He's just trying to.
We already know
Well, he already has an issue. He's highly critical of big tech, which in and of itself is kind of hypocritical because Republicans and conservatives typically have been government stay out of the business of private corporations, but yet here we are. He's trying to regulate what big tech specifically.
What private companies do.
What private companies do. So that is one thing. The second thing, he's just trying to change the subject on him. Because, like I said, only way I know him is Fist Dude at the insurrection, and I'm pretty sure he wants to direct our
change the narrative, as they say.
Yeah. Look at that. There's a squirrel over there. So this.
Don't look at the burning building. Look at the squirrel.
Right. Exactly. So this, a lot of people out there who don't like big tech companies just because they're big. And because
they can't get any of that money, I think, is what it really boils down to as well.
And not just that, but there, maybe there's a little bit more deeper into it. For instance, a lot of people, specifically who lean right or conservative, have a lot of issues with recent tech companies like Apple, like Facebook, limiting free speech, air quotes, by kicking Trump off of Twitter. And,
kicking a lot of them off Twitter.
Right. And limiting what sort of political information can be shared on social media. So
whether true or false.
Right. So maybe this is his way of, striking back at big tech companies. According to this story, it may not affect Apple a whole lot because Apple hasn't been known of acquiring companies with 100 billion in market cap. Mostly Apple has typically grabbed smaller companies, and Apple does close those companies down, hires all the people from that company, and then adopts their technology and bakes it into the iPhone, Mac, all their products and services. But Apple typically doesn't really go after big companies like you think of Facebook in the past, who grabbed WhatsApp. They grabbed Instagram, right? Those were big.
Microsoft grabbed LinkedIn. We'll talk about them later.
Exactly. So, Google, they grab anybody.
Any and everybody to get their hands on.
So, and those have typically been big, acquisitions, where two big companies are merged together. So this, if it went through, which has this long way, it's just a bill, but it could affect some of those other companies. But Apple typically kind of shies away from those bigger companies and just kind of grabs small ones. But nevertheless, this is a direct.
It's like it's retaliatory.
Right. Directly towards companies like Apple.
Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do, because they've hauled in all these tech companies before Congress and interrogated them and tried to find ways. And like you mentioned, it's quite hypocritical that they want these private companies to stay out of, to stay out of politics, but at the same time they're pulling them in. And like we mentioned last week when Mitch McConnell was like, I'd suggest that private companies stay out of the politics except for the money. I'm not talking about giving us money. So it's one of those things where we want to use you for the ways that we can use you. And if you don't want to play ball with us, then we're going to try and find a way to handicap you.
Right.
Is what it ultimately boils down to, in my opinion. All right, that is it for the lowdown. Let's move over into second string, where we talk all other tech. Starting us off this week, as I just mentioned, large companies acquiring other companies. One of those folks is LinkedIn. Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, and they have had a 500 million accounts data breach. Last week talked about Facebook. Facebook had a 533 million accounts data leak, and now LinkedIn is in this week's hot seat. They apparently scraped all this data, including full names, email addresses, phone numbers, genders, and other types of PII data. I don't think there is any type of financial data on LinkedIn that I can think of offhand. I don't know why anybody would store like a credit card number or social or anything like that on LinkedIn. I'm not a LinkedIn purveyor, so.
Yeah, according to the story, LinkedIn wants to lean people in the idea that the information that they scraped, and scraped is a specific word to where whomever was pulling information publicly versus hacking in to actually get information. They mentioned that, aggregated data from a number of websites and companies. So LinkedIn's kind of saying, they didn't just pull it solely from our site. Story goes on to say no private member account data was included, which means the data could only have been pulled from public information. So like, for instance, if you are on LinkedIn and you want to network with people and you want companies to contact you, you are more than likely to put up your name. You're more than likely to put up your email address. You're more likely to put up your phone number, because you are in the, hey, I need you to contact me because I need a job.
Right.
So here's all my information. That is what LinkedIn is saying. This latest hack was comprised of aggregated data from people's public accounts, and they really wasn't hacked because nobody actually dug into.
No one penetrated their system unauthorized, is what they're saying.
Exactly. So according to LinkedIn, again, time will tell. But the fact that all this data
is compiled into a data set that can be easily sold, these folks can start to build profiles. They have your name, they have your phone number, they have your email address. They can go and scour the dark web, or if they already have data, they can start to match things up and build a profile. So your leaked data could be the foundation of a larger, nefarious reason for this data. Similarly, Clubhouse had pretty much the exact same type of thing. They're saying they weren't hacked. It was public data as well. They had 1.3 million, individuals with their information linked, and they're saying that it came from their SQL database. But at the same time, both of these instances are very similar in the way that you can start to build profiles off of this data.
And to be honest, well, not to be honest, but to side a little with some of these companies, it's on the individual as to how you display your information. So if at the very least we're finding out that millions upon millions upon millions of user data, public user data, has been scraped from LinkedIn, from Facebook, from Clubhouse, from Google, from all these different spots, then not the honest, but you as the user should have more responsibility as to how your data, where you put your data, and how you can mitigate some of that. And some of the ways you can mitigate it is Apple specifically is starting to roll out with these privacy features that enable you to create or sign into accounts using your Apple ID, which then hides or masks your information, like your email address, right? So that's another way. Instead of creating an account or signing in using your own email address, you can use this Apple ID. I think Google does it. A couple other apps do it to where they will mask your information to where LinkedIn, for in this example, will have a randomized email address and that will be forwarded to your real email address. That's one way to hide it. Another way to hide it is just don't put all the information out there. I know you want people to contact you. I know you want to be accessible, but all this information is getting scraped on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So, you may have to do some more or do less to be less, available online. And a lot of people say, well, they've already got my information. Well, don't give them more.
Don't give them more. Don't answer the questions of, what's your favorite teacher's name? These cute little things they have that they pose as games on Facebook or on Twitter. I know the family tree thing that was going on Twitter. Was it last week? It was this little API that they would just kind of randomize different apps to come up with your Twitter family tree, a mom, a dad, a spouse, that kind of thing. But what was happening was it seemed like it was some sort of scheme for follower counts. So hidden in that app is if you go and look at your followers, you'll notice that you have new followers that you didn't actually follow. But that was a part of the API when you downloaded whatever it was, whatever the app or game or whatever it was, to be able to get your little family tree, which was literally just dashes and pipes to.
And I mean, we've seen them. I've seen them all on Facebook, and every time I see them, it's like, why are y'all doing these?
Stop answering these questions.
Because if you look at it individually, they'll say, give me the year you was born and the first letter of your middle initial, and it'll tell you what popular song that you were listening to in this genre. So you take that individually, but then they say on a whole nother one, they'll say, give me your first initial of your first name and
the street you were born on.
And right. And it'll tell you which popular sitcom person you are. And it's like, yo, they can put all this information together and they'll have your first, middle, and last name. They'll have all your phone number.
The street you grew up on.
Social security number.
Yep. Where they can now go into and change your password and get access because they can figure out the security questions, the answer to the security questions that they ask for when you go in and change your password or whatever. Yep. Stop doing it. It's not fun. It's all a scam. It's all a scam.
People love them. They love them. And it's like, y'all, I just stopped saying stuff. I'm Brother Tex. I'm supposed to be the dude that says, hey, don't do this. I'm tired.
But when people don't listen, it's on you. And that's the thing with, when you're talking about, what you put out online, because in the Clubhouse, it had, your name, your email, but it also had your Twitter handle, your Instagram handle, your follower counts, when you joined, who was the person that invited you. So it has all of these information, as we said, that they can start to build a profile on you. Go and looking at your Instagram page. You got your dog on there. You're saying what your dog name is and some of the security questions. What's your first pet?
Yep.
It could be your pet. That could be your first pet. I mean, it's all a numbers game. They're hoping that they get enough of your data to put together a profile from you to go and steal your identity or hack your accounts.
Or use it to create a whole nother person, which links to your information, and same difference.
Yeah, but exactly. Be careful out here. It's not just fun and games. It's not just fun and games. All right. Google has rolled out a new heads-up feature that is supposed to help you not be distracted by your phone. And I have all these pop-ups on my window from this website on USA Today that is not allowing me to see the article. Okay, so they are rolling out this new feature for Android users only so far, to help you not be so distracted by your device. Again, like I said, it's called Heads Up. It's currently in beta. And it allows you to track smartphone habits, including how much time you spend on your device. So it works by, I'm quoting from the article now, if you're walking with your smartphone unlocked, the feature will ping you with a reminder to pay attention to your surroundings. The feature is expected to work while Android users jog or run as well. And it, has sensors to detect different types of movement to understand what type of activity you're doing and the location. So if you're in a park and you're, moving at a quicker pace, it can surmise that you're possibly running. And if your phone's unlocked, it's likely that you're looking at it, because most of the time your phone automatically locks if that's the way you have it set up. So that's just a new feature that they have, that they are trying to encourage people to be a little bit more aware of what you're doing and when you're using your phone.
Yeah, it's simpler. It's similar to Apple Watch, that can detect if you're washing your hands and say it'll either do a countdown to let you know and ping you when, I think 20 or 30 seconds. I think it's 20 seconds.
It's 20
of washing your hand. It'll detect when you are coming home, and it'll say, hey, I'm surmising this. It says, hey, outside is nasty. You're coming in the house. Maybe you need to wash your hands.
Maybe you should wash your hands now.
Right. So it's a similar type of technology, which, it'll help more than it'll hurt.
Yeah.
So definitely, a good feature for Android users to have those type of features popping up, because like you said, if your phone is unlocked, you are looking at it. There's no reason for your phone to be unlocked and you're not actively using it. And if you are, if it is unlocked and you're running or you're doing something, then most likely you need to be focused on doing that versus looking at
your phone. Be safe, because running into someone, tripping over something, a myriad of things can happen.
I seen a lady where she was in the mall looking at her phone and fell all in the water fountain.
Wow. I hope whatever you were watching was
worth it,
entertaining you enough.
There ain't nothing worse than soggy socks and clothes
squishing around. Yeah. Nice. And in the mall, so that's even better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go over and talk about Instagram. Instagram is testing out a way that you can hide likes. I think many of you remember, I don't know, time is all weird, but not too long ago, Instagram temporarily took away the likes of posts, and people were freaking out. I mean, full on meltdown, freak out, like, what's going on? Is Instagram broken? But now they are actually, when I saw that happen, I figured they were testing out something anyway. Because, we've talked about it on the show before, how what people post is usually driven by the need to get views and likes.
Mm-hmm.
Attention-seeking behavior. But it says that, based on this article from Engadget, that Instagram has been experimenting with hiding accounts for almost 2 years. And that tracks. That sounds about right. But the company hasn't said a lot about how they plan to use that feature, or, what they've learned thus far. But now it seems as if the company is giving an update and making some minor changes to what they are testing out. And like previous versions of this, it's a small set of users, and the app will give the user the ability to decide whether they want to show their likes or to hide their likes. And they'll have the option to do this on their own posts, so their followers won't see them, or to hide them on posts from everybody. So you can either hide your own individually, or you can just hide everybody's from being able to see on your feed the total like counts.
Yeah. So again, like the previous story, it'll help more than it'll hurt. But unlike the previous story, if you don't, something like this that is ingrained in our culture, you'll probably get less people adapted because we're so far gone. This is just the way Instagram and social media and instant gratification works. The only way you're going to get adoption from this is if you force people to do it, because this is learned behavior to get to where we are now. So you're going to have to, in order to, if you really want to depressurize apps and make them less addictive, you got to slap it out of their hand. And the only way you can do that is by making people turn off likes, giving people the option for a free app, mind you. I could see if I was paying $1 or $2 or $5 a month, then no, yeah, you make it an option. But this is a free app. If you really feel that this uh gramming for likes and posting on social media for likes is truly an issue, you're going to have to force people to adopt a new behavior, giving people the option, or casually mentioning it. Can't even get the words out. Mentioning it, as a feature. We're too far gone from that.
Yeah. And it looks like Facebook is testing out something similar, which makes sense because they're all under the same umbrella. But like you said, it's so much money involved around these likes and follower counts and views. I mean, we've seen Instagram try and shift the focus from the number of likes to the more engagement you get is by hitting the little bookmark like tab. I think that's like what counts more in engagement now on Instagram. But people still look for likes. People still use those likes when they, if they're an influencer and they're trying to say, I want you to give me money for this, they include their follow accounts, their likes, how many times they've been reposted and all those types of things.
Well, so that's fine, right? But you can do that. For instance, Google, right? When back in the blogger days, when bloggers was writing blog posts in hopes to get sponsors, and hopes to get brands, in hopes to get people to advertise on their website, you would have to go into your Google Analytics and submit that information to a brand and say, hey, I'm Brother Tech. I do this, I do that. Here's all my analytics. I'm ready to partner, right? You can still do that. Like an influencer, if they are either trying to get a brand to look at them, or a brand is inquiring about them, it could simply say, hey, share your analytics. And then a user goes in and
Pulls that information.
It doesn't have to be window dressing, to validate who you are. Your validation should be the content itself, not necessarily the the quick results, the quick feedback.
The lazy feedback, honestly, because you can just scroll and look at a post and see how many comments, how many likes, without actually having to do the work to go and pull that information. It's basically just visualized what's on the back end, and honestly made people lazier to get that info.
And it gives people, the whole issue of false sense of insecurity, just following trends. And it's one thing to go look at your analytics on the back end and say, hey, this post posted well at this time, at this demographic or whatever. It's one thing to look at that and say, okay, well, I need to do more of that because this worked for my analytics, versus, oh, this person did this thing and got 1 million likes. Let me go do that exact thing. That's like you said, that's lazy. And actually it may be probably dulls creativity, because people are less likely to be creative when all they can do is just copy what this person did, and I should get that same response. And then when you don't, that it makes it even worse, right?
Right.
So I don't want to give people the impression that you should just post content and just be happy with it. No, if you are an influencer, if you're a brand, if you're a business, or whatever the case may be, that information is important, but it shouldn't be what is driving the content in the first place, because then again, you're just copying what everybody else is doing, which is making it a whole lot worse.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think we've talked about it numerous times, why do people post certain content online? And one of those reasons why is the instant gratification of, being seen as popular or getting likes or trending or going viral. So, like you said, to put that genie back in the bottle, they're going to have to honestly just rip the Band-Aid off and make it permanent. But I think, I don't even know if it's the case, but when they temporarily took them away, I personally think they're probably trying to gauge interest to see how the public would respond to something like that.
People are not going to like it. So why even why even torture yourself like that? People are going to freak out
they did
when anything changes. So just make them change.
Yeah.
I know that's terrible. You people are supposed to, be free thinkers, and you shouldn't want to compress or take away people's freedoms or whatever. I'm air quoting because I hardly see taking away the likes from a social media is inhibiting on anybody's freedoms. But I mean, that's the time we're in, right?
Yeah. And honestly, everything is recycled. Someone, you can post something and get a bunch of likes. Someone takes that same concept, tweaks the words a little bit, maybe change out the image to try and go viral or get those many likes as well.
They don't even do that. I've surprisingly, I've been watching reels on Instagram because, again, I can't take up TikTok because I cannot. I refuse to let another sign up for another social media account. So I've been actually looking at a lot of reels, and I've been entertained because they're clever. Funny. People are clever. They are funny. It's fresh, but then also you can clearly see the point I'm trying to make was there are some people who won't tweak anything. They won't tweak a word. They won't change the dance routine. They won't adjust the whatever, the background, whatever. They will literally
rip it,
and the only thing that's different is it's their account. They'll take your stuff and put it on their account.
Just bold.
Yours got 1 million followers.
Wow. Fun times, I guess. All right. The last thing that we have in second string this week is a bit more of a serious nature. About a month ago, Microsoft had to disclose that there was an attack on their Exchange servers from a state-sponsored hack from China, where they were looking for certain vulnerabilities, and they attacked 4 vulnerabilities in the email cloud server of Microsoft to purposefully steal data. And the government, of course, got involved because it's China. And anytime it's anything involved with China and data, the U.S. government is on it like white on rice. What's shocking about all of this is that ultimately the U.S. government were hacking hundreds of U.S. computers to try and divert, remove, get rid of this hack. So they hacked the hacked without your knowledge, the same way that China did, but they did it for your own good.
Yeah. They like your boy Exhibit. So I see you like hacks. So we hacked into the hack to make sure that the hacks had been removed, right?
Right. And it's a lot of, the article we're reading from, we'll put all this in the show notes, but the Department of Justice, has pretty much come clean and talked about, exactly what they did, what became of it, as well as exactly what the hack contained and how it was effective. So you can read all those details around the hack and around the hack of the hack. But my whole point of bringing this up is, are you comfortable with the United States having this type of access to hack American citizens, all under the guise of, I'm helping to defend you against a foreign enemy with malicious intent?
Well, it all goes into, I guess. Well, before I get to that, in the story, the FBI does say that if it is identified a user or a computer um, that has this potentially has this information, they will try to contact you by sending an email if they can find contact information. They do get a court ordered operation prior to, so it's not the FBI just saying, we've got these
We'll
lists of
snoop
computers.
around.
Let's try to get into them. They actually try to go through the process. They even try to reach out to you if there's information publicly available, yada, yada, yada. But outside of that, um, I don't think the government, because I mean, you take the police, right? Or you just take some of the stuff we're going to talk about now, right? The police will pull you over because you don't have the registered tags, or they'll pull you over, and I'm doing air quotes. They'll pull you
Because
over
you have an air freshener
because
hanging from your
from
mirror.
an air freshener hanging from your window, and then using that, then they get to discover, air quotes, all this other information, and then they use that to then, build a case, arrest you, in some cases kill you, you know. So you take that. I don't see the FBI obtaining legal or what's the word, good intent to access your computer for this specific reason, and then finding other things and just ignoring that and say, yeah, that's not what we're looking for right now. Let's just worry about these.
This
Let's
backdoor hack.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
worry about this backdoor hack to make sure China can't get into this computer and all this other stuff we saw on your computer, good or bad. Let's
We're
not
going
worry
to
about
ignore
that. That's
that.
what we're here for. Let's go back and get this new court approved thing and then go back.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
We're
it's
already in there, so
yeah, right, right. So I can see, of course, being a cynic, being a skeptic, or just
being a
having
black
common
person in
sense.
America, as we'll
Right.
talk about later.
There's no, I don't see a reason for them not to then say, oh, by the way, we found this stuff, or we were able to deduce this and that, which, could be all well and good because there's people out here doing some crazy things on computers nowadays, but that's not what you're in there for.
Right.
Right. So, it's hard to say, yes, go into my computer, but just only look at this thing
And ignore
and have
everything
it.
else.
Right, right. I mean, that's just not how. That's just. I mean, if the FBI is doing their job, they are going in and finding all this other of stuff and say, yeah, come with me. We saw this other stuff.
Let's
Come with
have a
me. Right,
conversation. I think we need to talk
right,
about what we saw. And I think that's my biggest issue. It's great that they are trying to have a more robust cybersecurity arm of the government to protect citizens, especially from, as we talked about, just LinkedIn, Clubhouse. We talked about Facebook last week. With your data being, access for malicious intent. But at the same time, how trustworthy are they to go in and look for what they're saying
vulnerabilities.
that they're looking for, vulnerabilities in your data being stolen, and not looking around at anything else? And I mean, it could, not even be, anything bad on your computer. To me, it's just the fact that they can go in and do that. And if they
Right,
can't reach you, I'm using air quotes, or if they can't contact you, whether they really tried to or not, it's still the fact that they have that type of access to go into my machine, for a reason. Was to say they can come up with another reason, outside of something like this, to just go in and peruse around and just see what's on your
right. And
machines.
again, we're being all speculative. This very well could not be the issue with this specific thing, because reading along in the story, you know,
They're
you
pretty
know,
detailed in the story about what
right,
specifically they were looking for, how they went about it, and the transparency is definitely good.
right, and just looking at it, give it at face
Face value.
value,
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to be moving around in your computer for other than copying and removing these web shells. They didn't, again, in the story, it says they did not patch any Microsoft Exchange Server 0-day vulnerabilities or remove any additional malware or hacking tools that hacking groups may have placed on a victim networks by exploiting the web shells. It's like the way that reads is we didn't do anything else. Like you bring your car into my auto shop and you tell me that the windshield washer fluid is not working. Me as the auto shop guy, according to the story, if Microsoft is the auto shop dude, I open up the hood. I don't care if you've got rats in the engine bay. I don't care, if
You got a
you're if
leak, you
or,
got a hose that's
right. I
disconnected.
don't care if you've got, Honeyworth Crisco oil instead of actual engine oil. I ain't see none of that. I'm just going
My
to fix
blinders
your
are
windshield
on.
washer fluid, and that is it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it reads like that, but I mean, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So
Yeah, it definitely is. And as history has shown, you can't always trust it. And I think, particularly for me, I always have my skepticisms because I'm like, I don't trust you so much. What
I
exactly are you
mean,
doing?
because black people in the
History tells
government,
us.
God, I mean, there have been books, there have been movies, there have been all these kind of exposés written about how the government, for whatever reason,
But we know the
decided that
reason.
they were going to, right, they were going to carry out these efforts.
Yeah. Trust is very scarce
Hmm.
around these parts. And that leads us into for the culture. We haven't really talked about this much on the show. And I've honestly tried to keep it out of the show because it's just so much. It's draining, it's exhausting, it's tiring to see this day in and day out. But these past couple of weeks, it's just been hit after hit after hit after hit. And it seems as if hunting season on Black people, it never closes. It's
Right,
always open. The season never ends. It's a forever season
right.
for, hundreds and hundreds of years. And I say that because we have concurrently, and these are just the things that are dominating the news cycle. There are so many other things that are similar to this that are happening consistently every day that we are unfortunately forced to see if you're on any type of media platform, whether it be television, social media, digital, whatever the case may be. And this is specifically surrounding the Derek Chauvin trial that's ongoing. The expectation, the defense, I think, is presenting their case now.
Hmm.
The judge told the jury to be expecting closing arguments on Monday. And if you don't
Hmm.
recognize the name David Chauvin, he is the ex-police officer who murdered George Floyd. And this has been in the news. They have cameras in there. People have been talking about it, but it's been, ramped up even more as of today is Wednesday. As
Hmm.
of earlier this week, a 20-year-old unarmed Black man was, I'm using air quotes, accidentally murdered by a Minnesota police officer, which was just 10 minutes away from where the Derek Chauvin trial is happening. This young man was pulled over because he had an air freshener hanging from his mirror. And the police officer, I think her name is Kimberly Potter, She said she mistaken her taser for her gun, and she shot him and killed him.
Yeah. So the way I heard the story is, in addition to the air freshener in the windshield, which according to police which prohibits the view of, get a potential safety risk by having things hanging from your rearview mirror that could obstruct your view. I also heard that maybe they also pulled him over for his tag, the registration or the expiration date on the tags being out of date. And in addition to that, in the video that we clearly see his name is Duante
White.
White. You could tell he was resisting arrest, and you can tell he was getting back in his car in hopes to flee the scene while the police officers were trying to accost him. For all of those reasons, again, still, that this should not be a death sentence, number one.
Because we've
Number
seen it's not a death sentence for other people who do the exact
right.
same thing.
And number two, I don't understand why people don't get why black people specifically get nervous, get jumpy,
Heart rate just starts pounding.
and it's number one, you're insulted because you didn't do anything
And
wrong.
you know you
Number
didn't do
one.
anything wrong.
Number two, if you did do something wrong, it does not take police officers yelling, screaming, pointing guns, pointing tasers, roughing you up for whatever you did. I mean, sure, my tags are expired. Sure, I have a air freshener hanging from my window. That's no reason. Sure, I may even have a warrant, but that is no reason for all of the the
And
commotion that
chaos. Can you just imagine just people just yelling? You're already heightened because you've been pulled over. And as soon as you
right.
see, even if the lights aren't on, as soon as you for me and the black people I know, as soon as you see a cop behind you, you automatically tense up. You start make sure
Right.
your hands are at the right order. You start trying to make sure you see where your ID is to try and put it in a space where you can easily reach it. And you're literally holding your breath until they pass you because you
Right.
don't
And
know what's about to pop off.
right. And for all of that, right? People don't, it's hypocritical for people to say just comply when people like us, we're untrained to deal with these high tense situations when we get into them. So I don't understand how you can't see how we get nervous and even want to flee the scene when trained officers panic and they accidentally shoot people. So I don't understand how you can say, okay, stay calm, just comply, when officers who are trained to handle these type of situations, accidents, quote unquote, can still
They
happen.
can't
So I don't
control their
understand.
emotions.
Exactly. They can't control their
And they're
emotions,
trained.
and they're trained for years and years and years. And I don't understand how people can't say, okay, well, why can't they just stay calm? Why can't you just comply when accidents are going to happen anyway? So my reaction is to flee because I don't know what these cops are going to do. Well, maybe I do.
I know
Right?
exactly what could happen. And compliance doesn't mean you get out alive either. Look at Philando
Right.
Castile. I mean,
Exactly.
George Floyd, he couldn't be no more compliant because he was on the ground, handcuffed.
Handcuffed with two other police officers leaning on him.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah,
yeah, it's
all that to say, I don't understand how you can just you people can say, I don't understand why you can't see that his failure to comply put him in this situation. When, like you said, from Philando Castile, who those don't remember, he was trying to comply and let the police officer know that he had a
a
gun.
license gun.
And soon as he mentioned gun, that guy, the cop panicked and shot and killed him because he panicked. So I don't understand
Even though
how
he
people.
had his girlfriend and baby in the car
Right.
with him.
Right. I don't understand how people can say, well, if you just comply, none of this will happen when we've complied and this exact thing has happened. So if you are giving me a choice of don't do nothing and something might happen, or do something And at the very least, I'm in control. And if something happens anyway, I'm going to let me do something in order to, possibly make the situation not as worse. Because there's no probability either way when it
And
comes to black people.
yeah, and if you take a look at the other side of this coin, from Dante White, you have Army Lieutenant Karen Nazario. He had gotten a car, was driving home,
Had temp tags in the window.
tent tags in the window. They said they couldn't see the tags. He decided to drive to a
They
lighted
said he had
area.
improper tags, is what they said. So improper tags means we saw the tags and they were improper versus we didn't see the tags in the first place. Because if they would have did their job, and I didn't mean to cut you off,
Oh, you're
but
good.
I did mean to
But you
cut you
did.
off. I'm trying to be self-aware here. For them to say he had improper tags means they didn't do their job because he had proper tags. You just didn't see him.
Yeah.
But for them to say I pulled him over because I couldn't see his tags means that y'all were wrong in the first.
Yeah.
So continue.
And it being dark and at night, I know for me, especially as a woman, if I'm driving at night and police lights come behind me, I'm going to put my hazards on and I'm going to drive to the next lighted area. And that's what he did. He drove to a lighted area. He gets there, you see the video. He has, both these cops, guns drawn, yelling, conflicting statements to him as to what he should do. And then he says, I'm scared. I'm not exactly sure what I should be doing. And the other police officer says, you should be. What am I supposed to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't pepper.
They told him, show me your hands and then get out the car. Well, which one is it? Do you want me to show me my hands or do you want me to get out of the car? Because if I get out of the car, that means I gotta put my hands back in the car to unbuckle the seatbelt and open the door.
And if I put my hands back in, you might think I'm reaching for a weapon and you're going to shoot me and I'm dead.
Right.
And so they ended up pepper spraying him, handcuffing him, keeping him handcuffed. And then the supervisor came and did the whole BS.
Let's have an intelligent conversation. I'm
right.
like, I have pepper spray in my face.
And I'm handcuffed.
And I'm upset. My heart is racing. I'm angry because I am a lieutenant in the Army.
With my fatigues on.
What happened to all this respect our troops, respect our troops, respect our troops? So I'm upset that I've been fighting for our freedoms and yet I come home and I'm treated like a nobody.
Right.
So he's upset, he's angry, he's pepper sprayed, his face hurts, and the cop is here talking to him in the video. Yeah, we just want to have intelligent conversations because I know you're upset. I'm like, you
think?
What? I don't hit you right now.
You better be glad I'm handcuffed. And not even really giving this man the proper treatment. They had the EMS people there and she kept trying to wipe his face, but they're still trying to talk to this man after you've illegally pulled him over. You've pepper sprayed him. You told him he should be worried with your guns drawn that he could be in danger. And you want to try and have a civil conversation. You're not treating me civilly. So how can we possibly have a civil conversation? And the biggest thing of this whole conversation, the only way we found out about this is because the video started trending on Twitter and he filed a lawsuit. This happened 4 months ago. Right. This happened December 2020. And we're just now finding out about it.
Yep. So again, all these stories to the George Floyd trial with Derek Chauvin, who murdered him, the Dante White incident. Now the officer was a female. She retired, and now they've charged her with, I think, involuntary manslaughter.
I think it's second-degree manslaughter.
Yeah, I can't remember. And this Lieutenant Cameron Nazario. It all goes to we could either be fleeing the scene or we could be completely complying, and
results
we still it's this disrespect by police officers. And the common trend is that these are black people who are not complying to whatever the police decide that day
is the problem.
Is what determines compliance. And for any little reason, for instance, like in this Lieutenant Cameron Nazario, I've heard time and time again to go to a well-lit area, but because
that's what they say.
but because it took a mile and a half for him to get to a gas station parking lot, which would look like a gas station parking
Yeah.
lot, that probably already set that officer
He
off
was
to where
pissed.
how dare
You
this
didn't
black
listen
man
to
not
me.
comply
Yeah.
immediately when I tell him to do something. Forget all the common sense, forget all your training, because like I mentioned before, the reason why you're pulling him over is improper, because that's not the reason why you're pulling him over. Now you're going for all these reasons as to why you
Now
pulled him
you're trying to
over,
find a reason.
because you saw this nice SUV. You probably saw a brother in the SUV and decided, you know what, I'm going to check
He
him
doesn't
out.
deserve that.
Right, because that's profiling in the first, which
Yeah.
is starts all this in the first place.
Starts it all. Starts it all. And it's one of those things where on January 6th, not a single cop or Army Reserve, National Guard could be really found anywhere in the immediate aftermath. Now you have all of the protesting in Minnesota, and it's like freaking Baghdad. I mean, they have the Army, the National Guard trucks lining,
which
surrounding the police station. And
which
the
is
police
ironic.
station is the one who perpetrated the act.
Which is ironic because they probably already had that stuff there
Yep.
on alert because of the
Derek
Derek Chauvin
Chauvin.
trial in the first place. So it's not a stretch to see why they had all this stuff there for the Dante White riots. But it still goes back to your point. They had armed guards and National Guard and all this equipment just for a trial. When, like you mentioned, the insurrection that happened in January
It
6th,
was
it took them
planned. Yeah.
hours to find anybody, any sort of backup to help the underarmed, understressed
Prepared. Yeah.
Capitol Police, DC Capitol Police, to stop this insurrection of the thousands of people who everybody knew ahead of
Knew they were
time
coming.
that they were going to
Bold about it.
storm the Capitol. So
Yeah.
that it's just compounding interest on this racially biased issue that we constantly seem to be happening over and over and over again. And I don't understand. You may not agree, but you have to respect the fact that something legitimately is there for us to have these reactions to these instances that keep on happening. It's one thing to say this was a fluke. It's one thing to say, yeah, you make race could be issue, but I don't necessarily see it here. But for it to happen over and over and over again, and you still get people in comments saying, why are you making it always about race?
Because it is.
And why can't you understand that if he would, or this person would have just complied, nothing would have happened to him? We've got time and time and time and time and time again to where this is a issue.
People want to be willfully obtuse as long as it fits their narrative.
And not only that, I think people don't want to admit that
This isn't who we are. Yeah, it is.
right. They are
Been
a
new.
part, either ignorantly or complicitly, a part of a system that everybody isn't treated the same way. Specifically, you are put in a higher regard in the society, and I don't think people are willing to sit with that. So mentally, your mind tries to come up with all these reasons.
Mental gymnastics as to why it is the
Right.
way it is, rather than it's not that difficult. See it for what it
Right.
is. Usually the easiest explanation is the one that is true. And
Right.
it also doesn't take into account and when I say we, I'm talking about Black people, we are still expected to show up to work and, continue to produce like the world's not on fire. Not a single person on any call that I've had this week has, in the small talk before meeting start, has said anything. But when George Floyd was murdered, they had a company-wide 8-minute and 46-second moment of silence. And they do all of this performative, diversity and inclusion, all of this, let's work on our bias and all of these trainings. I had to sit through a 2-hour training just this week that was
Right.
mandatory, that I had to do pre-work on, had to participate in during the call, and I had to do post session challenges as well. I should be exempt from those things because I already know this isn't for me. I know.
Right.
But it's one of those things where if you didn't show up, if you didn't do the completion and the survey and all that kind of stuff to prove you were there, you get on this I'm in trouble list with your your highest up leader because your name goes on a list.
Right. And
this isn't for me. I
right.
know.
And I mean, it flies in the face of inclusivity, right? You're trying to be include everybody, but
Don't
the
include me.
people, right? The problem is not inclusion. The problem is oppression and supremacy. You
Systematic
need to attack
racism.
those things.
Yes.
Attack those things first. And then once you get those taken care of, then you work on inclusivity. Because again, the whole issue is not, okay, we're not included in everything. No, the whole part is you're deliberately oppressing certain groups of people based on this system that's been in place for hundreds of years. Break that down, and I guarantee you inclusiveness will fix itself.
It will flow right on through. Because at the end of the day, Black people aren't asking for anything exceptional. We're asking for the freaking bare minimum. Treat us as if you would treat somebody white.
Right.
To put it bluntly, don't pull us over for reasons you wouldn't pull over someone else who had less melanin than I am.
Yeah, treat everybody fairly or treat everybody unfairly.
Right.
Pick one.
Yeah, pick a side. Can't straddle the fence, even though the fence has been straddled for hundreds of years. But yeah. So I felt this week that we did need to discuss it because it's been prevalent and instances have been happening over and over and over again. And I saw someone posted on Twitter that said, only in America can you have a trial for a murder caught on video that is then interrupted by the murder of another person in similar circumstances 10 miles away, only for that to be interrupted by a mass shooting at a high school.
Yep. Those are the times that we live in.
And I think, that's how we know for certain that outside is really opening back up, because mass shootings have magically resurfaced, like a bear out of hibernation.
In the past couple months, it's been, 3 at the minimum?
3 that have been probably publicized. We had the one in Atlanta. We had the one in Colorado. The school shooting yesterday. I want to say I'm missing a couple. But yeah. All within the same day. So.
Yep.
Take care of yourself. Limit the amount of time you're on social media. I know we all want to be informed, but it's a lot. It's exhausting to have to relive this trauma every single day. And for them to consistently show the video over and over and over and over again, like it's some sort of entertainment. Not putting any type of warning on these videos when they show them, when they post them on social media. Just starts with bam, Black person dead.
And that's us too, because we want to make sure that people
don't forget
share in our trauma and in our pain. Personally, I stopped sharing the videos a long time ago. I rarely talk about it on social media a lot because, I sometimes feel hopeless.
Yeah.
We're talking about it on the podcast now because it's almost unavoidable.
It's overwhelming.
Right. But outside of that, it's like, you feel hopeless because it's like no matter what we do, no matter how many times we share the video, no matter if, and this is a big if Derek Chauvin is even convicted in the first place.
Which a lot of us don't think he will be, to be honest.
At all the damning evidence, all of the witnesses, all of the testimony, this is still a big if.
Yeah.
If he gets convicted or not, so all that, you just just kind of feel hopeless, and that's how we shouldn't feel. This is America, right? This is a land of the free, home of the brave. This is where
2021.
this is opportunity land. This is, you can make anything of yourself. But still, there's a corner, there's a pocket of it to where there's a lot of hopelessness. And you just like, what do you do?
What do
Could
you
you
do?
just focus on the positive? Yeah, you could try to do that, but you by doing that, you are, luring yourself into
Security.
a false sense of security that you can be waking up out of at
Yeah.
any given
At
moment.
any given moment.
Hmm.
Life is so fleeting. These instances happen literally in seconds, and lives are changed, and indelible marks are made on not just the people and the families that are directly impacted. There's an indirect impact that is felt community wide. And it's not something that you can shake off. It's not even something that you can be even immune to anymore, because each time is a fresh gut punch
Hmm.
every single time. And there's nothing you can do to make people see your humanity if they don't want to.
Right.
There's nothing, there's no perfect victim. You can be the perfect victim. You can have everything going your way and you could be the perfect, and I'm using air quotes, black. You could be in the ideal, and there is still going to be people who say you could have done something better. You could have
Hmm.
done something different. You could have handled it in a different way. And there is absolutely nothing that we as individuals and as a
Civi-
community
and civilians.
to,
Hmm.
yeah, there's nothing we can do to change someone who already has a negative perception and is not willing to change that perspective, because they can always find fault in something.
Right.
And what is the answer to that? I don't think there is one.
It was an accident. I don't know.
When you've been in the police force for 26 years, you've trained other
Hey,
people. One is on
hey,
one side of your body, the other is on the other side of your body.
one's bright yellow.
Significantly lighter.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't I don't have the answer. We don't have the answer. And you can't expect the oppressed to fix the oppressor.
And you want to believe it's an accident. Well, not you. I want to believe is an accident, but how? How can I believe this was an accident?
Yeah. There's no way. And the mental gymnastics that's going to go on behind this, he had a warrant out for something he did when he was a teenager,
Hmm.
underage.
Hmm.
And he was smoking a joint. But in Minneapolis, they've decriminalized marijuana.
Hmm.
And he pleaded guilty, and he got a fine of $75 and $81.
And then the pandemic
Where
hit.
pandemic hit, he was on a payment plan
Hmm.
for not even $200. That goes to show what the situation was, and that's
How the
why they
system
issue
works.
how the
We
system
talk
works.
about this systematic racism, and people can't. They are boggled at how is a system set up that specifically criminalizes, a certain group of people. How does a system do that? That's not people. That's a system you're talking about. Well, this is a perfect example.
Yeah,
A perfect example of how the system, you get put in the system. One, it's hard to climb out of legally, and
especially when
two,
you're underage.
and especially if you're underage, it's hard to climb out of. And two, you could be a victim of it,
Yeah.
a legit murder victim as a result of this system.
And having a warrant taken out when court systems are allegedly closed for not even a $200 fine. That's
Yep.
why you have a warrant. And that is what's going to be used against this young man.
Hmm. So, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Deep, long, Negro spiritual sigh. That's all I got. All right. Let's move into the hookup. What's the how-to you have for us this week, Brother Tech?
Tax season is here, and I'll try to change it.
Change the
Change.
tone, but it's
Yeah,
hard.
right. So, me and my wife have been corralling all of our documentation together. They've extended the tax deadline, so that gives us a little bit of time. A lot of the tax documents are electronic, but you still get some that are in snail mail where you have to take a picture of them or you have to scan them to make them electronic. And I figured out, well, not I figured out. There's this cool feature in on Macs, the preview app that you can use to open and view PDFs, where you can actually use that preview app to actually merge or combine multiple PDFs into one giant PDF. So again, the example is if you have to corral a whole lot of documents together to give them to your accountant or your tax professional, instead of giving them a whole bunch of different PDFs of a whole bunch of different documents, you can actually use Max Preview to combine multiple PDFs. And the way you do it is, of course, you open one PDF using the preview app. Once the PDF is open, then you tap view and you want to make sure the thumbnail view is enabled. Once the thumbnail view is enabled, you go to edit and then click insert, and then you select the option insert a page from a file, and then you go find the other PDFs that you want to add to the first PDF that is currently open. You open all of those PDFs, and then it'll merge them all into one PDF that you can then send to your tax professional. You can send it to your wife or your husband or whoever is filing your taxes in this example. And that way you just have one document versus a bunch of different ones. So, I definitely use this for me and my wife during tax season. So I just thought I'd pass that along to you. And the reason why this is beneficial is because you don't need to use another app. Most people use Adobe, right? Well, you necessarily don't need Adobe. You don't have to sign up for Adobe Reader or any sort of cloud or online anything to house all your documents into another system. You can use the free preview service that's already built into your Mac and accomplish the same thing. So that is my hookup tip for the week.
Nice. And that wraps up the show for this week. Definitely download, rate, and review us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You can definitely engage with us on social media. We're at SnobOScast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, be sure to watch us on our YouTube channel at SnobOScast, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a lot. Also, feel free to leave us any comments or suggestions, show topics, thoughts on our website at snoboscast.com, or shoot us over an email at snoboscast@gmail.com. Also, you can support the show by becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/snoboscast. And for just $5 a month, you get access to our pre-show content, access to our live show taping, as well as to our online chat community. Also, feel free to drop us off a love offering via PayPal at paypal.me/snoboscast. And that's it for this week, everybody.
Peace.
Stay safe. Protect your peace out there. We'll see you guys next week.